Yeah, these are all the languages which are there in the .NET framework. And .NET framework is a free platform. It is a free framework. Anyone can download that one, and it will be by default installed when you have any Windows operating system in your desktop. And it is a cross-platform, open source developer platform. That means it is a cross-platform when it comes. That means when you write the code in Windows and you can execute that in Linux system or MacBook. So we can, if you write in one place, you can write that, you can use that code in any of the operating system. That's called the cross-platform. And it is an open source. That means it is available for everyone who is using this internet. And this .NET framework is used for building many applications, such as console application, Windows based application. If you see in the notepad, this is also one kind of application can be developed by using .NET framework. That is Windows application. If you see any browser related things like Facebook or Google or Gmail, those are all the related websites that we can develop using ASP.NET. And with .NET, you can use multiple languages and editors and libraries to use to build the web application, mobile applications, desktop applications. You can play with IoT, Internet of Things, and you can develop some games as well. And we can write .NET in many languages like C#, F#, Visual Basic. These are all just languages of a .NET framework. .NET is a framework, it is not a language. Clear? But Java is a language, it is not a framework. .NET is a framework, it is not a language, where C# is just one of the language in the .NET, where Java is just a language, Java is not a framework. Clear? Difference between C# and Java is like .NET and Java. In .NET is just is a huge framework which is a collective of 60 plus languages, where Java is just a one language. And let us see what is a platform. So while writing, while I said that .NET is a cross-platform framework. That means when you write the code in Windows, you can use that code in Linux or MacBook or any of the operating systems. That means wherever the platform, what can be the platform? Platform is just a combination of operating system and your hardware components. That means .NET framework is a platform dependent framework, whereas it becomes independent or cross platform when it is implemented by the Mono framework. So by default, .NET framework is not a platform independent. That means uh, when you write a code in Windows operating system, it won't be useful, it won't run in the Linux system. That means, so to make it cross platform, that means if you write in Windows, it has to be useful in MacBook also or in Linux system also. In that case, .NET uses Mono framework to make it platform independent. Otherwise, it is a platform dependent. So platform is nothing but your operating system. So whatever it is, if you have installed Windows on your system, then it is then your platform is Windows. If you install Linux, then your platform is a Linux system, like that. Clear? Are you clear, guys? Okay, let us see what are the types of application we have in the .NET. So these are different types of applications we can develop in .NET. That means the first thing is console based application. If you open any command prompt, if you open the command prompt, this is the command line interface. So if you see this, you will be writing some commands to execute something, to check something, or to run something in the computer. So this is what the console application, and these are the command line interface commands. And the output will be seen like this only. It will be just one line of code or few lines of text. It will be displayed, but there is no GUI here. That means there is no graphic user interface. When you develop any console application or kind of command prompt application, you will not be seeing any graphic user interface. So this is called as console application. And we can develop Windows applications, such as if you open the calculator, see, this is a kind of Windows application. So if you see, there is some graphic user interface in this calculator, like you can press some buttons and you can do some operations here, and when you click on something, you can get the output. So that means there is some graphic user interface when you develop such kind of application. This is called as graphic user interface Windows application, WinForms, Windows Forms. So this application can run without using database also. So whenever you don't have internet also, you can use the application, and you can develop some application by interacting with database also in this application. Let us say if I calculated something and if I want to store this value into my database somewhere, then you can interact with some database and you can store that value also. So this is an Windows application, and command prompt is kind of console application. And if you see, there is a WPF, which is called Windows Presentation Foundation. This is an extension of the Windows application. This is the extension of the Windows application, like calculator. And this is an Windows services, which is used for making API calls. That means application programming interface between different applications. And we can develop ASP.NET web applications using ASPX web forms or using MVC framework. So when you develop any web application using MVC framework or ASP.NET, you can see that output in the browser. That means you will get some URL, or you can just see the output in the local host also. And there is an other application called SOA, is a Windows Communication Foundation. This is also an extension of the Windows services. That means when you write some code and you make it exposable in the internet, that will be reused by all other applications by paying it actually. So if you see any Facebook or Google APIs, so we will have some weather reports for free actually. If you type something like Google weather API, there are some few sites that will provide this few free API URLs to call that URL, and we will get the result from there. That is called as a API. I think this is not providing it. Let us say Facebook also provides some Facebook free APIs. Facebook developer API documentation. If you go to this, so Facebook also provides some graphic APIs. So in order to get the Facebook results, like if you log into Facebook from your application, then Facebook has to send you data. That means the user data, email, the mobile number, first name, last name, everything, date of birth. So in order to send that data from the Facebook, so Facebook will provide you some API to connect from your application to the Facebook database. That is called an API. Similarly, Google provides some APIs, Facebook provides some APIs, like that. So those are called the Windows services, or we can use the Windows Communications Foundation services to get that data. And we can develop mobile application, or which can be compatible for the smart devices by using Xamarin. We have a Xamarin framework from Windows to develop such kind of application, Xamarin. So Xamarin is a framework which is provided, which is the Windows, which came from the Windows only, from the Microsoft, to develop some mobile applications on this. And we can develop some cross-platform mobile applications also. That means when you develop some application in the Xamarin, using Xamarin, it can be used in both ways, like in the Android as well as in the iPhones also. Clear, guys? Any questions so far? Let us wait for 1 more minute. If you have any questions, just let me know. Or if I'm going too fast, just let me know. Any questions? Please raise your hand and ask. No questions? Okay. I will take it as no, and we'll move to the next topic, which is understanding code compilation and execution in the .NET framework. So if you write some code in the .NET, let us say, let me open this Visual Studio. So in order to write the code for .NET, we have to use the Visual Studio. That is this is one of the editor that is provided by the .NET. So you can install that from Microsoft.com. Let me show you that URL also. Just search for Visual Studio 2019. There are several versions in the Visual Studio. You can get it from visualstudio.microsoft.com. You can download your Visual Studio. You can download the community version, which is a free version. You can use it. So if you want to download the enterprise version, you need some organization credentials. That means there should be some organization which should be offering you the enterprise edition, but you can download the community edition. So this is the URL, guys: visualstudio.microsoft.com/vs. So this is where you can download the Visual Studio in order to write the code for .NET. Let us open this Visual Studio. I'm opening this Visual Studio. Okay, this is how the Visual Studio latest version is looking like. So in order to create a new application in this Visual Studio, we have a create new application, click on create new application, new project. Okay, so as I said, we have several kind of application we can develop in the previous session, in the previous slide. So the first one is a console based application. So to create a console based application, just search for console here. Yeah, so if you see, the console application is available from different frameworks. So one is from .NET Core, one is from .NET Framework, one is from, yeah, we have two different applications from the console. So if you see, the languages also are modifying here. This is for on the Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. That means .NET Core is an extending framework, that is the latest framework of the .NET, which is a cross-platform framework. So we can develop that application, and it will be available on Windows, Linux, and Mac OS also. And you see this .NET framework, this is only applicable for Windows platform. See this, there is no support for the Mac OS or Linux system if you see this .NET framework. So this is the basic framework in the earlier versions of .NET, and this is the latest version of .NET, which is giving support for Linux or Mac OS also. Let us take the .NET basic framework console based application. That is I am taking C# language. If you see here, they have mentioned this C# language. Here they have mentioned this Visual Basics. So now we are going to take the C# language console application from the .NET framework. Click on next. Let's say some test application. You can choose your location to store, and here are the various framework versions which are available. So we will take the latest version. That is create. Cool. So this is how the Visual Studio will look like, and this is the best IDE you will see on the internet. So Visual Studio is one of the best IDEs. IDEs is nothing but, yeah, okay. So IDE is nothing but your code editor, where for Java we'll have some Eclipse, and for .NET we have Visual Studio. Similarly, we have Visual Code, and you can write some HTML code as you see in the Notepad or Node++. Those are just basic editors, but these are the IDEs. And if you see this, we have in the file option, we can just create a new application, new project, new file, and we can just open the existing application. And if you see, this is the basic structure of the .NET of the .NET class. And let us run something. Let me write something to display on the console application. To write something on the console output, we have to use the command called console dot. So in order to write something on the console window, we have to use the write method. So if you see, when I just press on the dot, it is showing me two methods, write and writeLine. This is because the Visual Studio is having the IntelliSense. That means whenever I click on the dot, or whenever I miss something, whenever I just missed something wrong spelled, then it will be showing some errors. That is the compile time errors, we will call it as. And even though, yeah, it is showing you the methods or the parameters which we have to pass to that method. Don't bother about this right now. Just I'm printing some message in this one. This is C# tutorial. And to run this application, we can just go to start and click on start. So when you click on start, the application starts building, and it'll just check whether it's having any runtime errors or any kind of compile time errors. So if it is if everything is fine, then this application will open you this console window. Okay, this is just displayed, and it is just ran away. So in order to wait that, we will use a command called read or the read line. Okay, so if you see, these are two different commands. So the console is representing this console application, and the write method is representing, like, you're displaying some message in the console window. That may, this read or read line methods will be defining that you're giving some input to the console application. So let's run this application again. We can run the application by using Control F5 without debugging, and we can debug the code by using start also. That I'm pressing some Control F5 command. See, Now this, we have displayed some message in the console window, and the cursor is actually waiting for some input to close this console window. This is a console window, and it is displaying some message by using the console.write, and the console.read line is a method which is actually expecting some input from the user. If I press something in my keyboard, this window will be closed. You see, and if I press some command, it is getting closed. So this is what the read line expects. Like actually, it will be expecting some input from the user. So this is the basic structure of the class in C#. So let us see. Don't bother about what is syntax of the code. I'll explain what is the syntax of the code. For just to understand what is the code execution and compilation in the .NET. Let's say assume this is our source code. That means whatever we write and what are the computer is understanding and in a C# language. So this will called as source code. And when you write the source code and when you compile the code, the language compiler, there is a language compiler in between. It will compile this code. So if you see when I run the application, or if I go to build and just build solution, it is building the solution actually. So that means it is compiling this application. So when it is compiling the source code, that means this code, and it is compiling by using this language compiler, it will give you a intermediate language. That means it is called as the in-between language, which is not understanding by the computer. So in between there is a language called MSIL. Let us say it is called as in general terms, we can call it as MSIL. That means Microsoft Intermediate Language, or we can simply call it as IL also, Intermediate Language. So when the source code is compiled by using this language compiler, so that means language compiler is nothing but compiler will compile the whole code which is written in the complete solution or the application, wherever it sees the .cs file. That means C# code will have the extension of .cs file, like we have the HTML extensions, .html, and for CSS files we have the .css extension. For JavaScript files we have the .js extension. Similarly, C# application, C# files also will have the extension of .cs. That means C#. So yeah, so when you write the source code in the .cs file, and when you just compile this application, the compiler will just read every line of the code one by one. It will just go through every line of the code, and it will compile the complete code by using this language compiler, and it will see if it is any runtime errors or compile time errors in the code. So that will produce some intermediate code. That code is again compiled by the JIT compiler. JIT is a just-in-time compiler. It will compile the whole code in terms of blocks actually. Let us see. Yeah. So JIT compiler will compile your intermediate language code. That means if you, like I said, in between we have the intermediate language, and this code will be compiled by the JIT compiler. It will produce the native code. That means this native code is nothing but, for suppose we are using the Windows platform, that means this native code will be related to the Windows platform only. If you run this application in Linux, then it will generate a native code that is only running in the, that can only run in the Linux platform. If you run this application in the Mac OS, then it will generate the native code with respect to the Mac OS platform. So JIT compiler will take care of that. And so when you write the source code in the Linux platform or Windows platform or Mac, anywhere, the language compiler is common there, and it will compile that code and it will generate some intermediate language. So this code is plays the main part in the whole code compilation. That means this code is the main thing. When it generates this code, it is also called as .exe or .dll files. I'll tell you what is .exe and .dll files. So this file, this code is very important, which will be again compiled by JIT compiler, and it will generate the native code which can run on the Windows platform or Linux platform or the Mac OS platform, like that. So what is the process? So when you write some source code in the .cs files, it will be compiled by the language compiler, and it will generate some intermediate language code, and that code will be again, let us say we have the source code. Source code is compiled by the language compiler, and it will generate to some intermediate language, which is also called as a Microsoft Intermediate Language. And this is again compiled by the JIT compiler. It will generate you again a native code. So this native code is the code which can run on the individual platforms such as Windows or Linux or the Mac OS platforms. Understanding, guys? Any questions so far? Is Visual Studio Code complication? Okay. Sorry, Hemant. Is Visual Studio Code application for .NET also? Yeah, we can use this Visual Studio Code application for .NET also. Okay. So far, any doubts, guys? So this is how the source code in the .NET will compile, and it will generate the machine and understanding language, which is called the native code. Clear? Any questions so far? Let me give you some 2 minutes to raise the questions. Okay. Are you following? Or am I going too fast, or am I going too slow? If you're not able to understand, just let me know so I can explain you the topic again. Okay, cool. So let's move to the topic. Voice is low.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
I'm having a doubt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Actually, in previous section, you explained us about JavaScript, sir. Yes, no. What's the main difference between today's session and previous session, sir? I mean, what's the difference in their applications?
Okay, so in this session we have learned the JavaScript, right? So JavaScript is a language, is also a language, but this language is a front-end language. That means this language is understandable by only by the browser. So if you write some JavaScript code, that will be understood by only by the browser. That means when you write some JavaScript commands or statements or the if conditions or the switch loops, everything, those conditions are only understanding by the browser. So let us say if you write this C# code, that means it is from the .NET framework, but JavaScript is a by default language that comes with the every browser. Means if you just install the browser, it will just come with you. Like you can write that code in any of the Notepad or Notepad++ that can run on the browser itself. That means there is no other compiler needed for this JavaScript to run that, actually, to compile this application. So when you write some JavaScript, and if you do some mistakes while writing the code, that means if you miss some semicolon, or if you just misspelled your function name or any data type, if you misspelled, so browser will not when you're writing the code in the Notepad or Notepad++, it will not let you know that you have done some mistake, right? But when you're writing some C# code using Visual Studio, but C# is like, it is from the .NET framework, and it is a server language. .NET is a server thing, is a framework, and C# is a server language, where JavaScript is a front-end language. That means there are two different languages there on the real time. That means the front-end language, that means the client languages, client-side languages, and server-side languages. So if you take client-side languages, we have JavaScript, jQuery. Sorry, jQuery is not a language; it is a library. And we have AngularJS framework. We have Node.js, which is a server. We have the React.js, which is again a framework. So these are all languages or the client-side languages, and C# is a server-side language, which will run on the .NET framework, where the client-side languages will not run on the server, and it will just run on the browser. Just understand?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There are a lot of differences between these two things actually. So
Yes.
ultimately in the ASP application, that means when you create some browser kind of application like google.com or gmail.com, such kind of application we can develop using ASP.NET, like I said. So when you develop such kind of application, we can just relate both these, we can just combine both of them. Like we can use the JavaScript and as well as C# into one application.
Okay. Sir.
Am I audible? Am I
Yes,
audible now?
sir.
Okay, cool. Any questions?
That's it. Sir.
Okay. So let's move to the next topic. Which is CLR and its components. So what is CLR? So if you see this code compilation, we have the source code, and in between we have a language compiler, which is compiling into the intermediate language, right? So in between this compilation, and here we have a JIT compiler, and so on top of the JIT compiler, we have a CLR. So CLR is called as Common Language Runtime. So this is the runtime environment. That means whenever you write the source code in the .cs files, there should be one runtime environment. That means when you execute this program, so I can give some commands to this application to take some inputs or to display some data in this console window. Let's say it can be console application. So in this process, so there should be one runtime environment should that should take my input also. That means there should be one runtime environment. That means environment is nothing but when you write the wherever you write the code, and it is taking inputs on in a dynamically basis. Like it should be interacting. Environment should be interacting one. So that's called the runtime environment. So when you give some inputs or you pass some values, you give some input to this application, it should take your inputs. That is called the dynamically. It should take your inputs dynamically. So and it will give you the result based on the your inputs. So that's called the, so there is some dynamic interaction between your application and your output of the console application. Let's say it can be any application. So you have to give some inputs, it should calculate some result, and it should give the output of the from the application. That means there should be interaction between the output window and the backside server code, the source code. So that's where the CLR plays the key role here. So CLR is a runtime environment for the .NET framework. That means when you write the code in .cs files, that is called as managed framework. That means when you write the code in this .cs file, it will be taken care first by the CLR only. Before compiling by the JIT compiler, it will be taken care by the CLR. That means CLR when you write the code, it will just see whether this code is applicable for the .NET framework or not. That means CLR is not only for C#, it is also applicable. It will also support all the languages in the .NET framework, like F# or Visual Basic. What are the languages I have mentioned you that are there in the .NET. So for all the languages in the .NET, CLR will support to compile this application. Like it will help the JIT compiler to compile that application and to generate the native code. So CLR is a runtime environment that is commonly used for all the languages in the .NET framework. Okay, so whatever the code you write in the .cs file or .vb, that can be Visual Basic file. So like that. So if you write the any code in C# or Visual Basic or F#, those all code will be known as managed code. That means whatever the code is executing by the CLR is known as managed code. And if you write some code in .java file, and if you just add that file in this application, that code will not be compiled by CLR, will not be taken care by the CLR. Okay, so whatever the code, that means whatever the languages that are there in the .NET framework, so only those languages related code will be taken care by the CLR, the common language runtime. Why it is called as common language runtime is, so it is a common language between it is a runtime which is also support all the languages in the .NET framework. That's why it is called common language runtime. So all the managed code, that means all the managed code, in the sense the code which is written in the C# or the Visual Basic or F#, those are all called as managed code, has the following features. That means it will CLR will convert the code, it can handle some exception, and it will just check the type safety. Type safety is nothing but when you declare some other type, like for suppose I want string input, and if I follow some integer, then it will take care of this type safety, and it is also will improve the performance of the application. So there are several components in this CLR, that means the common language runtime. So it will just execute the code, and it will also support the common type system. So it is also known as CTS. So CTS is also one of the component in the CLR. Let us see what is CTS. It will support all the types of cross language interaction. That means, let us say in C# language, for to have a integer value, we have int, and let us say a is equal to 10. And in Visual Basic, it will be in different format. It will not be in like this syntax. So syntax between this C# or Visual Basic will be different. So language to language syntaxes will be different. So in that scenario, so all the types in sense the integer or the string or the object or array, any kind of data type. So data type can be primitive or non-primitive, or all the data types between all these languages in the .NET framework will be handled by the CLR, and that feature is called as common type system. And the CLR also handles this automatic collection of the garbage. That means whenever you write this code, and when you leave this, when you leave from this program, that means when you close this application, there are several objects which will be already created in this in your browser, in your system. So those are all unused objects. That means when you're in this application, and when you just create some objects for this class, or you create some other class and you will create some other object, so those are all objects. Those all objects will be collected by this garbage collector. That means whenever you're not using any object in your application, that will be managed by this garbage collector. So this is an automatic process in the CLR, which will be handled by the CLR. So that what will happen when all the unused objects and unused stuff in this application will be collected into garbage, then the application will become more faster. That means it will improve the performance. So whatever the component of the CLR, it will always try to improve the performance, and it will just try to make the developer so like, yeah, it will make the developer to feel that this application is running faster, and it is giving you much support in developing applications. So Git compiler is one of the thing, is one of the feature in the CLR. So if you see this code compilation process, so what is doing this JIT compiler, on the top of the JIT compiler we have the CLR. So CLR will handle this JIT compiler also, which will help you to convert this intermediate language code into the native code. Okay. And CLR has also one more feature called class loader. That means security manager, which is class loader. That means when CLR will load all the classes at the runtime only. That means it will not load the classes in the compile time. So when you write some code in the .cs file, it will just while running the code, it will load all the classes only when during the runtime only. It will not load the classes during the compile time. That means it will make your application more faster again. And CLR is having one more component called interpret with COM components and DLLs. DLL is nothing but dynamic link library. So when you create this application, if you go to this path of the application, it will create you one more file called DLL. Let's go to this application path. Is there in user, the source, repos. So here you can see I have this test application in this path. I open this test application and go to the bin file, debug. Yeah. So here you can see there is an .exe file. .exe file is there because this is a console application. We have the .exe file. So similarly, when you develop some Windows application, or if you are using some other packages in this application, then it will contain the same kind of file called a DLL file. If you see this code execution, I told that in between this, it is also called as .exe or DLL files. So .dll files or exe files will be generated when you just compile this application, and it will update every time when you compile this application. So that will be seen in this bin folder always. Bin in the debug, you can see if you are using this server side, so you can manage this solution configuration, and you can change this to release mode. Then it will create one more folder with release folder, and in that also you can see this .exe file. So you can just click on this and it will run this application. So either you can run this application from the .NET from the Visual Studio, or you can just run this application directly from here, like your command prompt. So similarly, command prompt is also one exe file. Yeah, that's also one exe file. And when you install any application in your desktop, all the applications will have such kind of exe files. So you can directly open this exe file and you can run the application. But when it compared to .dll files, it cannot be run like that. So in some of the application, we will get this .dll files, which is a dynamic link libraries, and these files cannot be run like this exe files. So these are just the package files which will help to run this application. So yeah, so what is CLR? CLR is just a runtime environment of the .NET framework, which will help you to compile this MSL, it will help you to manage the whole managed code. That means whatever the code you write in C# or Visual Basic or F#, that will be taken care by this CLR. And whenever you write some type safety kind of thing, it will be taken care by the CLR by using CTS feature. And when you just close this application, whatever the unused objects are there, those will be taken care by the garbage collector. And when you compile the code, it will just use the JIT compiler to convert this MSIL code into the native code. That means the intermediate language code into the native code. And it will also help you to load the classes during the runtime instead of the compile time. That means it will increase the performance of this application. So these are the important features of the CLR. Any questions? Any questions, guys? What happened to my Zoom application? Give me 1 second. My Zoom application is getting some problem. Okay. Okay. Are you able to see my screen? Any questions, guys? So this is all the introduction of the .NET. So if you have any questions, just let me know, so that we can jump into class, method, and objects. So far we have covered these are the topics. What is C#, what is .NET framework, what is a platform, and what are the different applications we can create by using .NET framework. And we have created some console application by using this Visual Studio IDE. And we have seen the code compilation, how the code is compiling by using these compilers, and how the native code will be useful to the system. And what is the main component of this .NET framework, which is called CLR, which is a runtime environment, which will help you to speed up the system, like the application, by using some components of the CLR, which is called CTS, automatic garbage collection, JIT compiler, and the class loaders. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, let's move to the next topic, the usage of classes, method, and objects in .NET. Yeah, so let us know what is the class. Class is nothing but a skeleton or a template or a blueprint for creating an object. So if you see this example, in this example, there is a structure called, so in the beginning of this .cs file, what we have some using statements. So every line is called a statement in the code, right? So we have some different, we have some several statements by using the with having the using as a prefix, and we have some name called system, some with system collection, and these are all called as packages. That means it can also be called as libraries that are available in the .NET framework. So library are available in the .NET framework. So these are all the libraries that are given by the .NET framework. So in order to create some application, we need these packages or libraries to use the special packages or the uh, system built-in libraries called as system. So using the system.linkU, we can perform some linkU operations. You can see these examples when you go further. And this is a namespace, and which is also a code block, which will which will which will help you to group the code into one piece. That means you can create one more class in the same namespace. Namespace is nothing but a block of code that will keep you track of this, like it's kind of a module actually. Let's say, let me create one more class in this application. Let's go to the add class. Let us say test.cs. Yeah, so if you see this, so by default the namespace is taking as a test application. Okay, so this is called the namespace. When you create such kind of namespaces, it can be used and it can be referred by using this using statement. Let us say we have this test application, and let me rename it to test sample application. So we can modify this namespace, the name of the namespace, and in order to reuse this namespace, so we have to use this using statement in any of the other classes. Let us go to this program.cs file, and you type this using sample application. So if you see this namespace is available when you just type using statement. That means using is nothing but is trying to use some namespaces that can be inbuilt or that can be the user built. Like you can create some user namespaces, or there are some system defined libraries that are also called, that will also have some namespace. So in order to use that library, we can use this using statement and its package name. So simply the namespace will create to some package. That means The package can contain multiple classes or interfaces or any kind of enums into one namespace, so that you can make it as a single package and you can just reuse in over the whole application by using this using statement. So if you just enter this sample application with semicolon, and here you can use that test class. If you just refer this, see the test class is going to show you here. If I remove this using statement from this class, you will get some error actually. You won't find this text here. See, you'll not be able to find this test class. This test class is not able to visible this program.cs file. Why? Because we don't have we're not referring that namespace. So if you refer that namespace in your .cs file, then you can see that test is available now to create some object. Okay, so this is the importance of the namespace. So namespace will help you to create some packages within the application, so to group some classes or to group some interfaces, such kind of things, and you can reuse them into any of the .cs file in the application. And we have the class. So class will be declared by using the class keyword, and it will followed by the class name, and we have to start the class by using these flower brackets. So this is the block of the code. So class will be having class and the class name, and it should be followed by the flower brackets. So an open and the close flower bracket should be there. So this is the whole block of the class. So before the class, you can provide some access modifiers such as private, or you can provide some public. So we have such kind of access modifiers which will help you to like expose this class outside this application. Let us say if I'm trying to use if I'm trying to create one more application, and if I have to use this class in that application, then if I make it this class as a private, then this class won't be useful in that application. Let us say in this test class, I will make this class as a private. That means this class won't be available outside this one. Elements defined in namespace cannot be explicitly declared as a private protected. Private, so it must be using a pro class. Okay. Okay, let's say we have a public class. Okay, so no issues. Let us say we have one more class in this .cs file. Let us say private class test1. Why it is giving this error? Okay, let us see this error later. So if you see the syntax, so this is the class syntax. So class is followed by the class keyword, and it is followed by the class name and the flower brackets which will open, then which will open, and it should be closed. And inside this class we can write some methods. So this is called as method. Method will have the signature called it will have its it will be having its access modifier, and it's written type of the method. This is the method name, and inside the method we can pass some arguments. So these are the arguments which we are passing to this method, and the main is one of the entry point for the console application. So wherever you write some class, and if you just put some static void main, and this method will be executed by default automatically. So if you go to properties of this application, right click and see the properties. If you go to the properties, you can see the startup object, and you can set this startup object as dot program. So that means when you set this dot program, it will just look for this main object, main method, and it will start this execution from here onwards. So main is a default method which is the entry point of the .cs file of this application. So the console application's entry point will be always the main method. So even though you don't call this method, it will by default call this one, and it will execute all the statements within this method. So this is the class. So class is nothing but a template or a skeleton or a blueprint for creating an object. If you see this test class, so in order to create some object in this program.cs file for this test class, then so to create an object, we have to use the class name and the object name equals. So to create a new object, we have to use a new keyword, and then the test class again, we have to close and open the parentheses. So this will create the object of the class of the test class. So this is called an object for the test class. So object is an entity that has properties for defining state, method for behavior, and events for deprecating, depreciating the change of the state. So let us say inside this test class, we will be writing some methods. So method will also start with access modifier. Let us provide some public access modifier, and we will write some integer as the return type. Let us say add as a method name, and I want to pass some parameters. So these are looking similar to JavaScript functions, right? So I have to pass some parameters inside this method as integer a comma integer b. So because we are providing some return type for this method, we have to return some value. So to return some value, we have to use the return keyword return a plus b. That means we are performing some other arithmetic operation, arithmetic addition operation, right? So this is the add method, which is accepting two parameters as an input, and it is returning some integer by adding this both values. So we have already created the object in this program.cs file. So to call that method, we have to use this object. So object will contain all the methods and properties of that class. So if you see this add is a method which is available in this object, and if you see this syntax, it is asking to pass you a and b. That means we have to pass 10 comma 20. Let us say these are the static values, and if you hover on this, it is the syntax is like integer space test dot add, right? The before integer int is showing that it is returning some value. That means when you call this add method, it will return some value as an output. That means integer c is equal to, provide this one. So the c is the variable which will hold that the value which is returning from the add method. Okay, so c is the variable which will hold the output from the add method. Let us display this output in this console window. Addition of two numbers, 10 plus 20 equals. So to concat this output, we can just simply use the concat symbol, which is the plus symbol, and we can append this variable here, so that output will be displayed as addition of two numbers, 10 plus 20 equals c equals the 30. Let us run this program by using Control F5 statement. See, we have some two lines of this two lines in the console window. This is C# tutorial, and addition of two numbers is 10 plus 20 is equal to 30, right? But these two lines are displaying in the same line. So if I want to display both lines separately, in the individual lines, then I have to use, instead of the write method, we have a write line method. Write line. If you just see, this write line method is doing write the specified string value followed by the current line terminator to the standard output string. That means it will terminate the line whenever it is displaying on the console window. Let us close this window and let us run again. Let's use the same method for this. See, now in this output you can see the two lines are displaying in different lines. By using this console.write line method, you can display the lines in separate lines, so that it will be terminated into the separate line. And you can see the output from this add method. So this is what the class, object, and method. So we have seen the syntax of the class. So class will start with the class keyword and the class name, and the methods will start with the same syntax, the modifier, and then it will have the return type, where we can take the integer or string or boolean value, and it will have the method name. Inside that we can pass the arguments of the method, and after the code execution we can return some value. If you don't want to return some value, you can just modify it to void. Void is a default return type which will not return you any of the value. That means you can just remove this return keyword so that it will not return you any value. So if you want to return the value, then I have to give some return type. Either it can be integer, or it can be boolean, or it can be decimal, anything. Return a plus b. Let us say I want to return some string. Then let us say we will create some method string full name. We want a full name which should be concatenation of the first name and last name. So let us take two parameters of string first name and string last name. And similarly, we will return the value, return the f name plus. So we have to concat the strings by using the concatenating symbol plus, and let's concat the both values, and we will separate them by using the space between them. So as we have already created this test object, so we can reuse the same object and we can get the output from that one. Let us say string full name is equal to object dot full name. So full name is a method. So to call the method, we have to close and open the parentheses, and we have to pass the inputs. So first name is hello and last name is old, let's say. To display the output, again, we will create one more console.write line statement. Full name is, concat the value as full name. Yeah. So make sure you will not have any kind of errors like this. If you remove this value, you will see you are seeing some errors right here. And if you just hover on that, it will just say you invalid expression term bracket. So that means it is expecting some proper closing of this one. That means if you remove this plus symbol, it is a proper closing. But if you are adding this plus symbol, it is expecting some other value after the plus symbol. That means it had to concat with some other value. That's why we are providing some full name value. Let's save it. Save that, and just to control F5 statement. Yeah, it is displaying the full name, hello world. So in that way, you can perform concatenating the strings, and you can just add some numbers. So this is what the method do. A method is a code block that contains a series of statements. That means how many lines you can write. Every line is called a statement. So we can write multiple lines in this method. So all the lines will be the statements. So it will just execute all the statements in a series way. That means one after the other, it will execute all the statements. The program causes the statement to be executed by calling a method and specifying any required method arguments. So if you see this method is having two arguments, which is first name and last name. So in order to pass that arguments, we have to pass while calling this method. Every execution instruction is performed in the context of the method. Yeah. So this is what the method. The method will be created by using access modifier, and it will have a return type. It will have the method name, and it can contains the parameters. These are not compulsory. You can pass it optionally also, and you can return some value by using the return keyword. And in order to create the object, what we have to do is we have to just refer the namespace if it is in different namespace. Let us say if I just give the same namespace as a test application for both the classes. So I'm removing the sample application and I'm modifying it to test application. So this using is no more used in this application. So this test class is already available in this test application only. So if you see this, when I hover on this, it is referring from the test application namespace. Right. So when you are using, when you're creating a class inside the same namespace, there is no need to refer that again in a different class using statement. Clear? So if you're creating a class inside one namespace, the same namespace, so there is no need to refer that class name again by using statement. It is already available in the same namespace. So if you're using different namespace, then you have to refer that namespace by using statement. Then only you can refer that class name. Clear? So this is what class, object, and method will be do in the .NET application. Any questions? Any questions, guys? I'll wait for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah, I have no questions. Okay, for Chinath. Questions from anyone? I'll just wait for 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, just raise your voice, or you can just drop the message. Okay, so let's move to the next topic. And this is a small example which I have provided. So if you see, this is the property. Let us create some properties in this test class. So like I said, class will contain the properties or objects. We can create some objects. We can create some properties in the class. So class is a collection of, class is nothing but a collection of properties. It's a collection of methods. It's a collection of some objects. We can create some objects. So let us say we'll create some property. Property is nothing but, so this class, let us say test, is having some property called test, simple property. Let us modify this test class to motor. Okay, so what are the properties of the motor? So if you take a motor or an engine or anything like a, let's say it can be a car. So we have a car class. So if we have a car, what are the properties of the car? So we will have the color property. So car will have a color, and car will have what can car have? Car will have a name, So these are all the properties of the class. So every class can have multiple properties inside the class, and property will also be defined by using it, by beginning it with the access modifier and the property type. This is called as property type and the property name. So to set the value of the property, we can use this get and set parameters, get and set. So to get the value, we can to set the value, we can use this get and set for the property. And so if you save this class, so we have renamed that to car. Let's modify it here. Yeah. So now car is our class. We have the object. So if you just type object obj dot, you will find this color as a property and name as a property. You see this, the properties are having the different icon, whereas the methods are having different icon. So differentiate between the property and the methods will be shown clearly here by using this Visual Studio. Cool. So if you want to set the value of the color, just give color equals the value of the color. So the type of the color is taking as integer. Let us modify it to string type, because color will be in string type. Let us provide the value to red. And we have one more property, name. Name as let us say Maruti. Yeah. So let us say we have a car which is named as Maruti and which is having its color as red. So in this test class, in this car class, let us modify this class name to again car. So it will not make us confused. Okay. Okay, we have this get and set methods, setters here. So in order to make this property as read only, that means if I don't want to set the value. So if you see this, I'm setting this some value for the color property, setting some value for the name property. So if I don't want to set some value for this color property, then I can just remove this setter, then just save it. Now go to this program.cs file, just see now. So this property is not able to assign some value. That means the property or the indexer color cannot be assigned to, because it is a read only. That means we have removed the set property for this color property. Okay, so if you remove this set and you cannot set some value, if you just remove this get also and just put some set only, let us put the set and let us remove the get. See, by default set cannot be only the set cannot be having so that means if you just set the value and there is no use of like setting the value, because you cannot reuse the value, right? That means if I have to read this property from the object dot name, then if I remove the get property, there is no point of creating this property in this car class. That's why we have to make this get as mandatory, and set is can be optional if you don't want to make to set the value, so that you can just remove the set property. So that property will become read only, just simply. Let's modify that back to set again, so you can set the value. So properties, so we can control the properties by making it read only. If you remove the set block, so it will become the read only property. And if you provide get and set blocks both, so we can just set the value and we can just read the value. So to read the value, simply we will again display some output, like the car color is now. Now to show that value, we have to use the object obj dot color. So this is what the get property will be useful here. So if property is not having any get get blocked, then you will not be able to use this value. Let us say we will have the car name object dot name. Let's save it and run it. Yeah, so you can see that. So we are setting some properties of a class and we are reading that value in the console window. So this is what the properties will do. So if you want to set the value, you have to just use the object or color in the left hand side, and if you just want to read the value, if you just you can just use this object or color in the console dot write line statement. Clear, guys? So this is what the property does, and we have seen the method, how to create the method, and we have seen how to pass the parameters of for the method. Let us see what is a constructor also. So if you take this car class, so to create a constructor of the class, that means constructor is nothing but the so car is a class. It will have its constructor which can be created by using public, and it is followed by the class name. So this is called as default constructor. So when you, and it will have the method syntax called open and close parenthesis. So this is a default constructor in the class of the car class. So if you just put, if you we can overload this constructor by passing some extra parameters. Let us say we will pass the string name and string color in the constructor as a parameters, and we will assign these to our local properties name, and color is equal to color. Now see, we have a car class and we have a constructor with a mandatory parameters, so that, so by default car class will be having its default constructor. That's why we are able to create some object for the car class. So if you remove the, so if you create a new constructor within the car class without providing the default constructor, then you will not be able to create an object without passing parameters. So in order to do that, we have to create one more constructor which is default without having any parameters. Then we can create the object without passing parameters, or we can create object by passing parameters also. Let us say car, and see it is showing two constructor here. So either you can use the default constructor or you can use the parameterized constructor. So we can pass this string, let us say Maruti to Suzuki, and color to green. So this will, so when you create this object, it will just go to this constructor and it will set these properties from this constructor, and when you read this object, it will just display the values. So let us modify this to object one, and run it. See now, so this is what the constructor will do. What it will do, it will just initialize the properties, or it can initialize something else inside the constructor. So we can pass the parameters to the constructor. So if you create a parameterized constructor, then we have to create the default also. Otherwise, you will not be able to create a default object without passing parameters. So we can, so if we have both, we can create objects by without passing parameters, or we can pass the object by using parameters also. And you can use that object to display that values, whatever you are setting here inside this one, inside the method. Carcast. What is carcast, Ina? Srinath, what does that mean? Carcast. Hello, Srinath. property name add. Can you just unmute yourself so that you can be raise your voice to ask the question? Srinath, let's make you unmute. Can you make unmute and ask the question clearly? So it will be known by other people also. Color, name, cast. Okay, you want one more property as a cast? Okay, so if you want one more property, just create the property cast. I don't think car will have a cast. Is it? Car will have a cast. I think employee can have a cast. You mean what is this cast property will do? So if you want to be more specific, just open your voice, you can ask. It will not be that much clear in the chat window. Okay, so any questions guys so far? Any questions so far? Let me wait for 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, just let me know. So far, we have seen what is the introduction of the .NET framework, and we have seen what is the CLR usage, and we have seen the usage of the class, object, and the methods, how to create a class, how to create the class, a new class, and how to create the constructor for the class, how to create the parameterized constructor of the class, and how to create the properties of the class, create the methods, and we have written some values from the class, and we have created objects for the class. We have reused the values also. Is it clear so far? Okay, let me go to the next topic, which is data types. So as you see in the JavaScript, we have seen some data types like string, integer, the number, boolean. So same kind of thing will be there in C# also. But here we'll be having a few more extra data types, like in order to be more specific for the integers, we have the integer with the 4 bytes of memory. That means you can provide only between these ranges. So if you see this range of the integer, so difference between this integer and long will be differentiated by the range actually. So you can provide this much of range of values only if you use the integer return type. If you use the long data type, then you can pass 8 bytes. That means you can have the more range of the number. If you want to use the float, that means you can just use some floating points. That means decimal numbers, 10.2 like that. That means, let's say you have a float, then float f is equal to 10.0 or 10.22. Then in that case, you can use this float. Float f. Yeah, so in order to create the float, we can use we have to use the float data type and the data type name and the value of the data type, and it is followed by the f. If you see the double is also used for the fractional numbers, which is sufficient for storing 15 decimal digits. But if you see the float, which is only 4 bytes, that means it is only sufficient to store 6 to 7 decimal digits only. That means to increase the floating points, the decimal points, we can use the double to increase the range of the floating number. You can use the bool straight away. You can use the bool. Bool is a number. Then you can pass the true or false. Bool for the true or false. We have the character just to store some one character. Char c is equal to just one character. So like if you see in JavaScript, we can write a string between the double quotes, or we can use the single quotes. Both are same in the JavaScript. But in C#, if you want to write some string, we have to definitely use the, let's say, string s is equal to, we have to use only the double quotes for writing the string value. And if you want to use the character, then you have to use single quotes. That too, it will have only one single character of the string. So if you see, this string is containing multiple characters here, but character will have only one character. That means only one alphabet it will have. If you remove the double quotes and name it as a single quote, it will throw error. You see this error. Too many characters in character literal. And if you want to see the errors, just go to view and you can see the error list. See, it is showing errors here also. There is an error window. So too many characters in the character literal. If you just click on that, it will point that line here. So it is asking you to put some double quotes because it's a string written type, because it's a string type. And if you modify this to double quotes here for the character, then again, you cannot implicitly type convert the string to the character type. That means if you just write some string in between the double quotes, then it is called a string. That's why the string is not allowed to take for the character. So for character, we have to pass the single quote. So this C# is more specific, is more type specific. That means you have to more specific with the type. If you just misspell the type, or if you just use the type for different purposes, then you will get some runtime errors. Like this, we have the string. So character is taking 2 bytes of memory, and string is also taking 2 bytes of memory per character, where it will store the sequence of character, where this character will have only one character, and it will be written in the single quotes. The string should be written in the double quotes. So these are the various data types we have. Integer, for which will take 4 bytes. Long for the extension of the integer, which can increase the range of the integer number. And float for floating points, which to have some decimal points. But to increase that range, we have the double. And for boolean types, we have the bool. For character, we have the char. And for string types, we have the string. Any questions, guys? My typing mistake. Cast no cost. Okay. So data types are similar between the languages of the .NET. Like if you take the Visual Basics or F#, the data types will be similar, but the syntax will be different between the languages. But it will all be taken care by the CLR while compilation of the code. Any questions, guys? So it's already been 1.5 hours. So we have finished up to data types. We have few more topics called control statements, and we will see some examples, and we will see introduction for the OOPS concepts. What is the encapsulation? What is inheritance? Polymorphism, and we will see some examples. And I'll show the example for connecting with the database by using the ADO.NET, which is a .NET framework thing. And what is the example for ADO.NET for connecting the database? and we have one more thing for introduction for the ASP.NET. So we have almost 10 slides remaining. So this is the end of session today. We have already finished the 1.5 hour today, and so tomorrow we'll continue. If you have any questions, just let me know, ask me. We'll just wait for 2 more minutes. Difference between float and double. So if you see these, float is taking the less range of the value. That means float can take only up to 6 to 7 decimal digits, but double can take more decimal digits. So when you want to increase the range of the value, then you have to use the double. Let's take a double value. Double, we have the double. And for double, you have to use D. Number, let's modify it to number 1. So this is the float. For float, we have to use the F, and for double, we have to use the D. So if you see, let us increase the decimal digits here. And if you keep on increasing the decimal number, it will give you error in the runtime while compiling it. And if you want to increase the decimal digits, you can use this double one. So while taking the value, it is not restricting you, but when you compile or when you just execute that program by performing some any of the operations, then it will throw you some runtime errors because the range you are exceeding already. Okay, so it's all about the range of the data types. Between int and long also we have the range difference. Between float and double also we have the range differences only. Any questions? So far we have seen the introduction of the C#, of the and we have seen the .NET framework. What is .NET framework? What are the applications are there in the .NET framework? And we have created the console application, and we have displayed some messages in the console window. We have played with the class, object, methods in the class, and we have seen how the code is getting compiled inside this one. And we have seen the CLR features. We have seen the usage of the class, object, and the methods. We have seen the examples for the properties in the class and the methods. Now we have seen the data types in the C#. Let us wait for 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, we can end the session. Okay, guys, that's all for today. So we'll end the session and we can continue tomorrow. Thank you.